Right now, as you watch this, your habits, your clicks, even the pauses between your scrolls are being recorded, traded, and turned into money. You're not paid for it. You may not even know it's happening. But this invisible flow of information is quietly deciding which jobs exist, which companies rise, and who ends up with power in the 21st century. People used to say oil was the most valuable resource in the world. Today, there is a strong case that it's something you can touch at all, your data. If you want clear, calm explanations of how this new digital economy actually works without hype, without panic, consider subscribing to your channel name. We break down the systems shaping your money, your work, and your future, so you can see the game that's being played around you and decide how you want to play it. Picture a city at night. From above, the streets look like veins of orange cars moving like blood cells through an organism. That was the old economy. Factories, highways, warehouses. Now imagine that same city, but the lights are replaced by streams of blue, and green data flowing not just along the roads, but through the air between phones, into cloud servers across continents. The buildings are still there, but the real action is happening in this invisible layer above them. That's the digital economy. Not a different world, but a second layer on top of the one you already live in. For most of the 20th century in the United States, economic power meant owning physical things, land factories, oil wells, fleets of trucks. Companies hired people to build, ship, and sell objects you could pick up and hold. You clocked in, you clocked out. Paychecks were printed on paper. Files lived in metal cabinets. Information moved slowly, and so did money. Then something subtle began to happen. In offices, paper files started disappearing, replaced by databases. In stores, cash registers turned into networked terminals. In homes, computers connected to phone lines, then cable lines, then wireless networks. Each step made it easier to copy, store, and send information. Not just words and pictures, but records of every purchase, every login, every search. In the beginning, that data was treated like exhaust, something produced as a side effect of doing business. But someone eventually asked a very different question. What if the exhaust is the fuel? Think of a moment from your own day. Maybe you opened a shopping app, looked at a pair of shoes, then closed it without buying. To you, that's a non-event. Nothing happened. But in the digital economy, something very big did. A record was created. Your device, at a certain time in a certain place, showed interest in a specific product, but not at that price. That tiny data point joins billions of others. Algorithms analyze it, and suddenly you see a coupon in your email, a similar shoe in a social media feed, a limited time discount. The next time you open the app, the price you pay the ad, you see even the story you read about, trends in footwear might all be shaped by that one click that felt like it meant nothing. This is why people say data is the new oil. In the industrial age, oil-powered cars, factories' electricity grids, whoever controlled it controlled enormous wealth. In the digital age, data powers recommendation engines, ad targeting credit scores, pricing algorithms, artificial intelligence. It fuels the platforms we use to talk to friends, order dinner, find work, watch movies, control the data, control the direction of the economy. But the comparison to oil is only half right. Oil is limited. Burn it once it's gone. Data is different. You can copy it endlessly. The same data point your age, your zip code, your browsing history can be used countless times combined with other points, fed into model after model. Oil is heavy, hard to move. Data crosses the world in milliseconds. Oil has clear owners and clear markets. Data often doesn't. It's collected quietly, bundled, sold, and resold in obscure ways, usually without your explicit awareness. In the early 2000s, a handful of American technology companies realized they were sitting on what would become modern oil fields. They weren't just offering search, social networking, or email. They were gathering in staggering volume signals about human behavior. What we search for when we are scared, what we share when we're proud, what we buy when we're lonely. Those signals became the raw material of a new kind of business. Platforms that don't simply react to demand but actively shape it. Imagine a wide, empty plain. At first there are small paths where people walk, one to a store, another to a bank, another to a newspaper stand. Then someone builds a giant digital marketplace and says, instead of walking to all those places, separately come here. We'll connect you to everything. Over time, more and more people use that central marketplace. Sellers realize they can't afford to ignore it. The path becomes a highway. The highway becomes a superhighway. One or two of these digital superhighways emerge in every sector shopping, search, social work. These are platforms: Amazon, Google, Facebook, Uber, Airbnb, and many more. At first glance, they look like tools. You search, you buy, you post, you ride. But underneath, they function as vast, constantly learning machines. Every keystroke, every purchase, every rating is new data they can use to optimize and predict. Which product to show you next? which post to highlight, which driver to send to your location. That's how a ride-hailing app can match you with a driver in under a minute. It's how a video platform seems to read your mind and queue up exactly what you didn't know you wanted to watch. This optimization has real effects on jobs. Take the example of work in the transportation sector. Decades ago, a taxi company owned cars, employed drivers, and called it a day. Prices were set by local rules. Today, in many U.S. cities, millions of rides happen through apps. The company that controls the app doesn't own most of the cars. Many of the drivers are classified not as employees, but as independent contractors. The key asset isn't metal, it's data. Routes, wait time surge patterns, customer ratings, even how quickly drivers accept or deny trips. All of it is tracked, analyzed, and fed into algorithms that adjust prices and dispatch assignments in real time. For the driver, the boss isn't a person standing behind a desk. It's a black box on a server farm. Accept enough rides, keep your rating high, avoid cancellations, and you may be flooded with work. Drift below a certain threshold, and the app can quietly starve you of trips. From the outside, it looks like flexibility. From the inside, it can feel like a video game where the rules change overnight and no one tells you why. This is labor in the digital economy. Atomized, datafied, often managed through metrics instead of managers. The same pattern shows up in white-collar work. Lawyers use AI-powered tools to scan huge collections of documents. Marketers use software to test hundreds of ad variations simultaneously. Journalists see which headlines get more clicks in real time. Office workers who once spent hours on repetitive tasks now use automation scripts and cloud platforms. Some jobs become more efficient and interesting. Others become more precarious, easier to outsource, or are gradually absorbed by software instead of staff. Underneath all of this is a simple cause and effect. As technology made it cheaper and faster to gather information about what people do, it also became cheaper and faster to experiment with their behavior. You see this every time a website looks slightly different one day or a button changes color. Somewhere, an A/B test is running. One group of users sees version A, another sees version B. Their responses are compared, and the more effective version wins. Multiply that by thousands of tiny experiments across millions of people every hour of every day. That ends how the digital economy constantly fine-tunes itself, not just what is offered, but how it is presented and priced. Money itself has followed the same path into invisibility. Most dollars today are not printed bills, but numbers in databases. When you tap a card, send a payment from your phone, or auto-pay a bill, you're really sending a message through networks that adjust balances across servers. Fintech companies, digital-first banks, payment apps, investing platforms built layers on top of the traditional financial system to make those messages faster, smoother, and more personalized. In the United States, apps let you split a dinner tab, instantly invest spare change into stocks, apply for a loan without stepping into a bank. Behind each of those taps, algorithms assess your risk, your patterns, your likelihood of paying back. Your transaction history becomes data, which becomes a credit score, which becomes an interest rate. That interest rate changes what you'll pay over the life of a mortgage or car loan. The data you leave behind while simply trying to live becomes a quiet force shaping how expensive your future will be. Even newer forms of digital money, cryptocurrencies, stablecoins, digital dollars fit into this logic. Blockchains create ledgers where every transaction is recorded permanently. The sales pitch is decentralization and transparency. But however the technology evolves, one thing is certain. Our economic lives are being encoded. The line between your financial identity and your data profile is thinner than ever. Insurance companies, lenders, even landlords increasingly look at digital signals, not just pay stubs to decide if they trust you. All of this raises a question most people are only beginning to grapple with. Who actually owns the byproducts of your digital life? When you drive through a city, you don't own the smog coming out of your tailpipe. But when your clicks, GPS coordinates, purchase history, and social connections are turned into valuable predictions, what are you owed, if anything? For years, the default answer has been simple. Nothing. You agreed when you accepted the terms of service that you never read. The trade was convenience for data. That trade has consequences. In the digital economy, information about you can determine not just what you see, but what you never see. Two people in the same city on the same platform searching for the same thing can get entirely different results based on their past behavior. In one version of America, a user searching for how to invest is shown educational articles, low-fee index funds, and retirement calculators. In another version, someone else gets served risky meme stocks, high-interest trading apps, or crypto schemes. Same search term, different economic futures. Advertisers don't just buy ad space anymore. They buy access to particular kinds of people at particular moments in particular moods. Maybe you've searched for medical information late at night, and suddenly a wave of health insurance ads follows you. Maybe you've browsed for payday loans and now you're targeted with high-interest lenders, data brokers. In the US, compile profiles on millions of people income levels, family size interests, political leanings, then segment them into lists with names like struggling seniors or young city achievers. Those lists are like maps of vulnerability and aspiration. Whoever holds them can aim their offers precisely where they're most likely to hit. This is where the question of power becomes impossible to ignore. Oil companies reshaped landscapes and politics in the 20th century. Data companies are reshaping information flows and politics in the 21st. Social platforms don't just reflect public opinion, they help form it. Recommendation engines decide which stories, rumors, and arguments get oxygen. Those decisions are made by algorithms tuned for engagement, not truth. A high engagement is great for ad revenue. It isn't always great for social cohesion. When data is more valuable than oil, the incentives are clear. Collect more, connect more, never stop predicting. The smart devices in your home, car, and pocket are, from a business perspective, sensors. A thermostat learns when you're home. A speaker hears what you ask for. A watch reads your heart rate. The value isn't just in selling you the device, it's in the ongoing stream of data back to the companies that made it. That stream can improve products, yes, but it can also create a detailed portrait of your life that others can profit from. In this landscape, some win big. A small online business in Ohio can sell handmade goods to buyers in Seoul or São Paulo thanks to global platforms. A designer in Atlanta can work remotely for a startup in San Francisco without leaving home. A teacher in Chicago can reach thousands worldwide with an online course. The digital economy breaks down many old barriers of distance and scale. It can create new paths to wealth that don't require owning factories or drilling rigs, but there are also those who find themselves on the losing side of the line. Workers in traditional retail or manufacturing see hours cut as automation and e-commerce grow. Local newspapers lose ad revenue to search and social platforms that can target audiences with far greater precision. Neighborhood shops compete with online marketplaces that undercut prices and absorb losses at a scale no small business can match. Even within the winners, the distribution of gains is uneven. Platform companies with their data, their algorithms, their network effects often capture a large share of the value created by the millions of people who use them. Think of an independent creator building a large following on a video platform. They pour in time, creativity, personality. The platform offers them reach and a slice of ad revenue, but it also owns the recommendation engine, the rules, the data about the audience. A small change in policy or algorithm can cut their income in half overnight. It is a reminder that in the digital economy, you can be both empowered and dependent at the same time. Governments are still catching up to this reality. Laws in the United States were largely written for a world of manufacturing railroads and broadcast TV, not for cloud computing, AI, and social networks. Regulators now wrestle with questions like, when does a platform become a monopoly if it doesn't charge users money but dominates their attention? Should people have a right to see and correct the data companies hold about them? Are gig workers truly independent contractors or employees under a new name? Around the world, different answers are emerging. The European Union passed strict privacy rules that give people more control over their data, at least in theory. California created its own digital privacy laws. American lawmakers debate whether to break up big tech companies, limit targeted advertising, or force more transparency around algorithms. Each step is an attempt to rebalance power in an economy where invisible code often makes more decisions than visible people. At the same time, a new wave of technology is building on the foundation laid by the last 2 decades. Artificial intelligence systems that can write text, create images, answer questions, and even generate code. These systems are trained on unimaginable quantities of databooks, websites, conversations, images. They compress the patterns of the digital world into models that can predict the next word, the next pixel, the next likely action. Suddenly, data isn't just powering recommendations and ads, it's powering synthetic creativity and decision-making. This brings the data is oil metaphor full circle. Oil didn't just power cars, it powered plastics, fertilizers, synthetic fabrics, entire industries that were hard to imagine at the dawn of the oil age. In a similar way, data doesn't just power ads, it powers AI systems that may reshape writing, design, customer service, logistics, even medicine. The companies with the most and best data have a head start. They can train more accurate models, which attract more users, which generate more data, which can be used to train even better models. It's a flywheel of advantage. That advantage is not evenly distributed. In the current digital economy, a relatively small number of firms, mostly based in the United States and China, control the core infrastructure. Cloud computing platforms, major social networks operating systems leading AI models. Beneath them are layers of smaller companies, independent creators, gig workers, and consumers. Many benefit from the services provided. But the strategic vantage point where you can see and shape the flows of data across entire populations sits at the top. So where does that leave you as one person watching this documentary, maybe on a phone, maybe on a laptop, leaving a trail of data as you do it? You are not powerless, but you are also not the customer. In many cases, you are the product, or at least part of the product. Your attention, your preferences, your time are bundled and auctioned in milliseconds. One response to this reality is resignation. This is just how it is. Another is panic. We're doomed. Neither helps much. A more useful question might be, how can you navigate this new landscape with your eyes open and maybe even tilted a little more in your favor? For one thing, you can be more conscious of when you are trading data for convenience and decide if that trade is really worth it. You can support tools and services that give you more control or are upfront about what they collect. You can diversify where you build your digital life, your work, your audience, your social connections. So you are not entirely dependent on a single platform, algorithm. If you run a business, you can think about data not just as something to extract from customers, but as something to steward ethically. What would it look like to treat your users' information with the same seriousness you treat their money? If you were a worker, you can look for ways to build skills that are hard to automate and think about how to work with AI tools rather than be replaced by them. And as a citizen in a democracy, you can push for policies that recognize data as a source of power, not just a technical detail. That might mean supporting clearer privacy laws, better digital education in schools, or updated labor protections for platform work. The rules of the digital economy are not fixed. They are being written slowly, often quietly, by lawmakers, lobbyists, engineers, and courts. Your voice matters more than it might seem. I'm curious how this all feels from where you sit. Has the digital economy made your life and work easier, more flexible, more open? Or has it made things more stressful, more precarious, more confusing? Maybe it's both. Let me know in the comments what part of this invisible system you feel the most in your own life, whether it's remote work, gig apps, targeted ads that seem to know too much, or something else entirely. Your stories help bring this big, abstract topic down to earth. And if you think someone you know, maybe a friend, a coworker, a family member would benefit from understanding how data, algorithms, and platforms are shaping their daily reality, consider sharing this video with them. A lot of people feel left behind or overwhelmed by all of this. Sometimes a clear explanation is the first step toward feeling less powerless. As we look ahead, it's tempting to search for a simple storyline. Technology will either save us or destroy us. The truth is more complicated and more human. The digital economy is not a machine running on its own. It is a web of choices made by people, engineers deciding what to measure executives, deciding what to optimize legislators, deciding what to regulate all of us, deciding what to click, share, and accept. Data may be more valuable than oil, but unlike oil, it's generated by almost everything we do. Every search, every swipe, every route driven by GPS, every tap to pay is a tiny creative act that feeds the system. That means we are not just consumers of the digital economy, we are in a way co-authors of it. The open question for the next decade isn't whether the digital economy will grow. It will. The question is whether it will grow in a way that concentrates power further or in a way that spreads opportunity more broadly. Will algorithms remain opaque or become more transparent and accountable? Will we be paid fairly for the value our data creates, or will that value continue to flow primarily to the top? The future may bring digital identities we can carry across platforms built on our terms. It may bring currencies that execute contracts automatically when conditions are met. It may bring AI assistants that negotiate bills on our behalf or organize our workdays. It may also bring new forms of manipulation, new kinds of inequality, and new battles over who gets to decide what smart really means. Standing here at this moment in time, surrounded by invisible streams of information, the most important thing we can do is refuse to see this as magic. The digital economy is complex, but it is understandable. And once you understand it, you can start to ask better questions of your devices, of your employers, of your elected officials, and of yourself. If you want to keep exploring these systems with a calm, clear lens, you are welcome to join us here at your channel name. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with someone who might find it useful, and let us keep peeling back the layers of the digital world we now live in. Because the real story isn't just that data is more valuable than oil. It is that together we get to decide whether that value is something extracted from us or something we learn to harness for ourselves.